BLAIR House in Washington, Iran's Premier MOSSADEGH is President Truman's luncheon guest for their first meeting. The Premier is urged to try for peaceful agreement in the quarrel over Iran's nationalization of British oil holdings. And the world hopes that from this friendly get-together, some solution will emerge. In Washington's Walter Reed Hospital, it's a moving and joyful reunion as far as General Mark Clark and his family are concerned, greeting 26-year-old Major William D. Clark on his return from Korea. The son of the Chief of Army Field Forces was 3 times wounded in the fight for Heartbreak Ridge. In Buenos Aires, a cheering crowd celebrating Argentina's Loyalty Day hails ailing Senora EVITA Peron. After presenting his wife with a medal, President Peron embraces her for the first time publicly. Then he proclaims that Loyalty Day would now be called St. EVITA Day, and thousands dutifully hail Argentina's president and his wife. Pakistan mourns its premier, LIEQUAT Ali Khan, the victim of an assassin's bullet. 500,000 Pakistanis shuffle by the body of the man who had aligned his country with the West. Many of these mourners have walked for miles to Karachi from isolated villages to pay their last respects to the leader of the Muslim nation of 80 million people. To a shocked and sorrowful nation only 4 years old, LIEQUAT was Pakistan. Wedding bells ring out in the tiny German village of Foren in the Moselle Valley. Lieutenant Colonel Harrison Day Blair of the U.S. Air Force marries Princess Gabrielle of Liechtenstein, the pinpoint principality between Switzerland and Austria. At Foren Castle, villagers bring gifts of flowers and food. U.S. Ambassador to Luxembourg, Mrs. Pearl Mester, represents America. Topping the ceremonies, the newlyweds receive a squealing symbol of good luck and happiness. Celebrates its 6th birthday by lighting up not candles, but the windows in its Manhattan headquarters. For stamp collectors, United Nations Day has a special importance. In its own post office in the headquarters, the UN sells its own stamps, and eager philatelists declare they won't be licked in the struggle to get the first issues. In Washington, in another phase of the UN Day celebration, President Truman greets veterans from 19 nations battling the Reds in Korea. The president draws a chuckle when he tells them, "If anyone doesn't treat you right, why, you tell me." Later, the veterans touring the country as an example of international fellowship go to the steps of the Capitol to hear Secretary of State Dean Acheson. Mr. Acheson tells them that the UN Army may have put off forever the horror of a third major war by showing aggressive nations that they can't get away with it.
And therefore the United Nations has taken on a virility and life which it would never have gained if its path had been easy. If it had merely gone forward with everyone's goodwill, it would have not had this breathing, vigorous, powerful life which it is getting today.
Then the scene moves to Paris, where the new session of the General Assembly opens. French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman passes to Trygve Lie, Secretary General of the United Nations, the keys to the Palais de Chaillot. The palace becomes international territory and a symbol of the world's fight for peace. In Korea, American artillery opens up. The target is Bloody Ridge. U.S. and Republic of Korea officers map a campaign to storm the ridge, which, like the infamous Heartbreak Ridge, had been captured once only to refall to the enemy. In these remarkable combat films, men of the ROK 5th Division advance through the brush under enemy sniper fire. With shells bursting around them, riflemen let go at an enemy bunker. inmates of the bunker are flushed out, hands up. In the gathering dusk, the battle for Bloody Ridge continues as a communist counterattack is fought off. 20 miles north of Yangon, this is the most heavily fortified hill in the Iron Triangle. Flares are set up to spot the enemy, but the Reds are finished and Bloody Ridge is ours.
At the Polo Grounds, Bill McCready's Let's Fly to Bob Walston as the Philadelphia Eagles draw first blood in their pro-grid battle with the New York Giants. By the time the Giants come alive in the second half with this Joe Scott run, they're trailing 17-0. But Scott covers 38 yards and a faint hope stirs in New Yorker hearts. Chuck Connerly heaves to Bill Stribling. The Giants get 7 to the Eagles 17 as Stribling goes over for a TD. An Eagle punt sails down to the Giants, struggling to pull a potential first league defeat out of the fire. Emlyn Tunnell's carrying the pigskin, and he seems to have urgent business at the other end of the field. It's a 71-yard touchdown run for New York, and it reduces the Eagles' lead to a single point. The Eagles' lead disappears for good with this Ed Price run. The Giants edge out the Eagles 26-24.